welcome back to another video. Today we'll be doing something a little out of the ordinary, and that is taking some vintage computers over to the Games, Crafts, and Cards show over at the Crucible here in Madison, Wisconsin. Now, this is a show that I got myself invited to by way of a friend to show off some of these vintage computers. So let's gather up some machines, get them in the car, and get on over to the show. So when I was going through my machines, I was trying to figure out which ones I wanted to take. You know, I've got a lot of computers. A lot of them are unique. A lot of them are of more interest to collectors than the general public. And so, you know, if you're going to be an exhibitor at something like one of the VCF shows, you probably want to take the rare computers, the computers that there's not a lot of left or weren't a lot made, or something that really catches people's eyes. But if you're going to a show for the general public that's not specifically for vintage computing, then you just want to break out the classics. So I think that's what I did with the selection that I made here.
We've got my compact portable running Snipes. We've got our Macintosh SE running Prince of Persia. We have our Commodore 64 running Radar Rat Race, everyone's favorite. And we have our Atari 65XE running Miss Pac-Man. So I've gone with 4 totally different systems in an attempt to, capture the age of vintage computing when there was multiple choices on what you wanted to run. It wasn't Windows, Linux, Mac. There was lots and lots and lots of different choices to run different things. And I'm using LCD monitors, even though I have CRTs, for these two guys because they are much lighter.
So now one thing happened when I was going through these computers to make sure everything was working, loading them up with games so that people could play, the things they remembered from their childhood, and that is the compact portable wasn't booting. So I did a quick repair of it, which I'll show you right now. All right, so here is our compact portable 1 that is not booting. So to get the case apart, there's these tabs here. Carefully snap open. All right. So with that cover off, we have access to the card slots, which are here. And it takes Torx because it's compact. They love their Torx. Also, the nature of this case is that there's lots of holes, and these Torx screws tend to fall in. So these ones you don't need to take all the way out. Just loosen them. And that one you just loosen. And this one I think we just loosen as well. So that does help a bit, unless you're trying to take them all out. Alright, that one is not, for whatever reason, the same as the rest. It's a nut. I don't know if that's factory like that, or if this was like somebody had been working on this later and decided to put this on, but I think it's a little difficult. So we'll just loosen that guy up a little bit. And then we have these ones which do need to come... Actually, they don't need to come off either. They just need to get loosened as well. So then, it should just pop off. So we have access to our cards. So in here I've got my disc controller card. I have the controller card for the built-in CRT. I have a serial card, and we have my ISA to SD card from TechSelect, which I love. So I'm going to take the serial port controller card out. I think that is not necessary to be in here. I'm guessing the problem is there is a short on the bus somewhere. One of these tantalums may have failed, as they do, and they usually fail short. And I believe this power supply, even though it does appear to be running, won't put out voltage to the system, or the system won't do something if
this card's bad. Oh, this is the RAM expansion card and the serial card. And apparently also has a real-time clock on it. Probably an important card. I might have a spare. So what I want to do as I take these cards out one by one is test the machine to see if it's working. So this is the power cord that gets tucked in there. I'm just going to use my bench power cord for now, since it's the same. So still nothing. I'll turn it off. And now we will take out the floppy controller card. And these factory cards are screwed in a different way than current cards are. There's a screw in the back of the machine here that holds it in place. All right, so we'll take that out. Give it some power. Oh, no, there it goes. So it appears to be the floppy card that's causing us problems. Yep, and I've got display on the screen here. So that card actually felt like it was in there kind of loosely. I'm wondering if it was just a jar, and that was the whole problem. So let's put our memory expansion card back in. Make sure that is going to function. So that's in. We'll give it some juice. Yep, and we've got a cursor on the screen, and now it's doing the memory count for the expanded RAM, so that takes a little bit longer before we'll get to the beep. And there we go. It is trying to boot. All right, so let's re-secure that card down. So if it does turn out to be the floppy card that's gone bad, I'm not going to be too upset. I do actually have a spare. But while both of these floppies work, I probably will never use them again once I got things set up and installed, since I do have this SD card in here, which makes life so much easier. And this card just kind of fits in here loosely. All right, let's give it some juice with that card. All right, we're getting the cursor, so I presume it's going to boot again. So I think it was just the card was in there loose. And it's doing its memory count. Let's check that okay. And I got a 601 error because the floppy drives are not plugged in. Let's go ahead and plug in the floppy drives. All right, and we will re-secure this card. So you can see right away we get the flashing cursor. That's what it does when it's counting up the RAM. So in a previous video, I had replaced all the foam and foil in this keyboard, so this keyboard is fully functional. Drives are fully functional. Everything should work. I don't recall if I was making videos when I was really working on this one, but it's these are 512 meg SD card, which is on the side over there, and that should boot us into DOS. So on this machine, we've got a couple of games, I believe, Round 42 and Snipes and Striker. Oh yeah, and when you do a DIR, because it's a 512 megabyte drive, and these systems, when I was a kid, we had this model with the dual floppies, and eventually we got I think it was a 5 megabyte hard drive. It might have been 10 for it. So to put a 512 megabyte hard drive in this thing, it's slow when it's trying to figure out the free space, because that's a lot of math for an 8088. Anyway, the other thing about this keyboard is, even after you've fixed it, replacing the foam and foil, it still is one of the worst keyboards ever made. And it was like that new. I remember this keyboard and how many times I was playing a game and pushed a key and it didn't accept the input, and I lost a life or lost the game. So it is not ideal. All right, so this is round 42. Turn the brightness down a little bit. And, you know, I saw a video not too long ago. Somebody was asking, you know, I think it might have even been this game, but they were talking about, well, why is F1 fire and F2 secondary fire? You know, because typically on keyboards, F1 and F2, the whole row is up there. But on these original IBMs and in these original compacts, they were over here, and they didn't go to F12. They just went to F10. So it made a lot of sense to have F1 and F2 be action keys for your games, because they were right there, easy to find. You know, left hand doing that, right hand on the arrow keys. When the keyboards changed and the function row got moved up to the top, it made a lot less sense. So to answer the question as to why some really, really old game uses F1 and F2 as action buttons, it's because when they wrote the game, it made a lot of sense. Hopefully the beeper speaker is going to work. There we go. As we're killing these birds. All right. So that's it. That was the problem, just a loose drive. So let's go ahead and switch it off. Well, not a loose drive, but a loose card.
All right, so we got the compact sorted. we've got the Atari, we've got the Commodore 64, and we've got the Mac SE. Let's get these guys in the car and head on over to the show. All right, here we are at the Crucible. I'm gonna unload the car. I'm here with Lane. Big old party today. So I got everything packed up in here. So he's got to carry some stuff in. And here we are walking into the Crucible. Of the east side of Madison, Wisconsin. Just off of Highway 30 here.
And everybody throws in 5 to ante or whatever. Yeah, right. Get me away to that generator, not to get the paper cards. That's my problem.
Like this?
Yeah, that's perfect. Alright, so first we're going to hook up the Commodore 64. Alright. Plug in the this is our HDMI adapter. This one. Alright. And then we need a joystick so we can play games, right?
How do we get a joystick?
Well, we go over here. Dig in our bag.
Can I have my own joystick too?
You can play any game you want out here. We'll give it some power. And we've got our first customer. It's Lane.
This is hard to control.
So I'll do a little bit of voiceover here. Kevin and his wife showed up
Hit
for the
start.
show
Hit the start
just to
button.
hang out, and of course we always
Look at
appreciate
the
seeing
special
Kevin
buttons
in
at
these
the top. One
videos
is the
since
start.
we're only making these
Atari
videos
game.
because Kevin talked me into it. But there's Kevin playing some Defender on the Atari 65 XE. I didn't get too many videos of just the general public playing things because the Crucible is very sensitive to privacy, so quick video, sensor bar, and then onto the machines. So this is the Atari 65 XE. I've got one of the multi-game cartridges loaded up in this machine. So instead of having to swap between, the 8 different games you have, it's got 50 games on it. You can reflash it. And there it is there. It's the Atari Max 8 megabyte flash cartridge. And then I have an Atari 2600 joystick plugged into it so you can play the games. Over here we've got the Commodore 64. I have cartridges for this one. I had Miss Pac-Man and Radar Rat Race, which I talked about earlier. But I also had the SD to IEC floppy drive emulator in it as well. And the joystick I used here was just some aftermarket joystick with a Atari compatible. It's an Atari joystick, but there's the Miss Pac-Man cartridge and the SD to IEC. I love this thing. You can take an SD card, copy Commodore 64 games to it, pop it right in, everything's good. The Mac SE here, this one still has the original 40 megabyte hard drive that came with it, running Prince of Persia, but we also had Tetris and Bolo and Spectre on it, I think a few other games, and then the now working compact portable. So the demo just cut out there, and somebody did ask me about if this thing ran Windows, and actually it does. I have Windows 1.0 installed on here, so I went ahead and loaded that up for them. Unfortunately, I'm running DOS 3.3, which Windows 1.0 isn't compatible with because of the old saying, Windows ain't done until Lotus won't run. Microsoft was not a fan of people running Windows on alternative DOS versions. So we can see it'll start here. It'll throw a bunch of errors, but it will actually load into the Windows 1.0 file manager here in a second. None of the applications work. Again, thanks Microsoft. And there she is. All right, and then back to you in the studio, John, with some final thoughts.
So one thing that I noticed at the show was that the systems that had the colorful, bright displays, that's what attracted people. There are some people that came to the Compact and said, wow, I've never seen one of these in person, or what is this thing? And the Mac SE, I had Tetris up on it at one point, and someone said, "Ooh, Tetris," but it didn't get a single touch. Nobody even really paid any attention to the Mac SE. So the bright, colorful displays, the more arcade-style games, I think that's what, at least at this show, people were most interested in, which was surprising since, you know, these Macs were in so many schools when I was a kid, and you think people would have maybe more fond memories of it, or maybe it was just the people at this show, who knows. Either way, I think for the next show, I'll be bringing out 4 different computers. Oh, and yes, we will be going back to the next show. So if you're in Madison, keep an eye out on the Facebook page to see if you got one of these coming up soon. And hopefully I will be there, assuming I have no conflicts. If you're local and you have vintage computers you want to show off or want to invite some of your vintage computer friends to come check it out, by all means, let's do it. All right, so I think that's going to wrap this video up. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. We'll catch you in the next one.
Hi guys! Make sure to like and subscribe and watch more of our videos later.